comme les groupes étaient très grands, donc nous avons essayé de trouver au moins 2 par pays. Donc comme ça, nous avons la Côte d'Ivoire, et ils ont une application qui s'appelle Agri-Météo. Donc l'application est en français qui donne effectivement des informations météorologiques aux agriculteurs, en fait, qui font le palmier. Donc, ils ont aussi un groupe SAP qui est différent de système d'alerte précoce. SAP, donc système d'information des prix, qui donne également des informations sur la disponibilité et effectivement des produits, des prix en fonction du marché, par type du marché plutôt. Donc, nous avons le Burkina ici. Donc, ils ont une application qui s'appelle Garbal. Garbal donne des informations sur les déplacements effectivement des transhumants, c'est-à-dire les mouvements issus, les mouvements un peu des éleveurs. Et ils donnent également, ils peuvent dire aux éleveurs, ok, tel jour il peut pleuvoir ou bien dans telle localité vous pouvez trouver aliments bétail ou de l'eau, des informations comme ça aux éleveurs. Donc ils ont Canal Agro Météo, donc programme télévision radio qui donne effectivement des informations, conseils, bonnes pratiques agricoles, c'est un peu fermé. Et nos frères du Sénégal, ils ont ce qu'on appelle les Sunday Technologies, c'est ça, et qui donnent des informations USSD, système d'alerte précoce, qui donne également des informations sur des informations météorologiques et agricoles aux producteurs. Et M. Luma, qui donne également des informations sur services d'information sur le marché, et également aux agriculteurs et aux éleveurs. Donc au Bénin, ils ont ce qu'on appelle les SIM-H, système d'information harmonisé, donc information sur le marché en SMS, plus audio, donc c'est en français, et ils font également une mise en relation effectivement entre les producteurs et le marché. Et le Togo, ils ont les services d'information, donc les non pas identifiés, mais qui partagent des informations par SMS, à la télévision, à la radio, et des informations liées à la météorologie. Donc, il y a le Niger qui a également les SIM, informations sur les prix, les semences, et également les éleveurs. L'application est en français. Ce qui est intéressant ici, il y a 2 langues locales également qui sont utilisées effectivement par cette application. Ils ont les e-extensions, donc conseil interactif, c'est comme un centre d'appel. Le producteur avec n'importe quelle langue peut appeler ce centre pour avoir l'information qu'il souhaite avoir pour sa localité sur la météo, sur l'agriculture de façon générale. Donc, nous avons le Mali. Donc, il y a une application qu'on appelle Sénékela, là, liée avec Orange Mali. À travers SMS, vous avez votre information sur le climat, sur le type de semences ou bien sur les dates de semis et tout ça. Et il y a également une application Rice Advice, et là développée par Africa Rice, mais au Mali c'est beaucoup utilisé. Cette année, plus de 40 000 producteurs l'ont utilisé, en fait, qui donne des recommandations de bonnes pratiques agricoles sur effectivement comment produire le riz. Donc voilà un peu ce que nous avons pu recenser dans le groupe. On continue, on a fait le...
That's fine. I would ask another group to present the challenge. But thank you so much. So we can see a lot of, let's give him a round of applause. So we see a lot of examples of digital advisory services across the region, the countries. I would like to invite the rapporteur in pink group just to present the 3 key challenges that their team discussed, that was identified, so that we, just for the sake of time, we can move quickly. Can the rapporteur raise the hand so that we can invite, they can speak for us? That's Nigeria. Online. Yes, please. Yes. Hi, Christian. Okay. I think Buhari raised the hand. Please enable. So you can...
Share my screen. Can I share my screen, please?
Yes, the screen is sharing. Can you please go ahead, Buhari?
Can I share my screen? Can I share my screen? Can I share my screen?
The screen is already sharing. The screen is already sharing, so please go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please. We can hear you, Buhari. Just go ahead with the presentation. Let's go ahead with the
I
presentation.
want to share my screen. I have to be allowed to share my screen. All right. Thank you. This is what we did in the pink group, that is the Nigerian group. Our first question is we should list any or popular DCAS available in our country. Our country here is Nigeria. Now we have the IS DAS soil. We have the
Identified. We know there are a lot of the services. Just for the sake of time, we just want to look at the challenges that, 3 key challenges that you identified. Yes, thank you.
Okay, we were asked to identify 3 key challenges, and as numbered, the first box there, the first challenge is inaccessibility in some states in Nigeria. There are some states in Nigeria that data from those states can't be found on the NIMIT app. The second challenge is incomplete crop calendar. There are some, there's the calendar or the school calendar for some crops are not available in this app. And the third one is high resolution of focus access to data costs of and cost of data access. Is actually what we're trying to say here is it is actually a bit expensive to access this data, and at most times local farmers may find it difficult accessing this data. So these are the 3 challenges that we've identified.
Thank you so much, Buhari, for the presentation.
If I am going to the next slide.
For the sake of time, thank you. Hello, Buhari. Thank you so much. For the sake of time, would like to move on. So maybe would invite the last one of the groups from in-house just to present the 3 key solutions that they have. So I think would invite the Ghana group, the rapporteur, to just share with us, and then we'll move on to the assessment. Yes, thank you. We're running. Yeah, I'll show it to you. Problem?
Yes.
These are solutions.
No.
Okay. All right.
Good evening, everyone. So from the Anglophone countries, Ghana, the Gambia, and Sierra Leone, these were some of the solutions we had. One was access to farmers. We spoke about how they will be able to get access to credit and funds for their farm activities. We also spoke about how to build a business model around the DCAS programs. And also, before we introduce anything, we have to engage the stakeholders, users, or farmers. We also spoke about knowledge management tools to maintain the sustainability models that improve the DCAS priorities. We spoke a lot, but I think these were the few ones I could type here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the group work. At least it gives you a feel of what thinking we should put in place as we go along in championing or helping to be ambassadors of introducing digital innovations to in our regions, in our organizations. It is not just the solution, the service, which is a digital service, but then we also need to consider the business model, user engagement. These are all important factors that we need to look at. And great. Now we are at end of session 1, and we have a quick assessment, which we would be inviting all of us to quickly take. So just to recap what we've done in session 1, we have looked at that climate change is not a future problem, it's now, all right? We need to take action now. We've also looked at some key concepts: digitalization, enabling environments, digital advisory services, climate resilience, among others. We've also looked at the different types, what digital advisory services are, and the types. We've also seen examples from just the recent exercise that was done. We've also identified some factors that are important for the successful implementation of these programs. We've also looked at some of the challenges that these programs need to look at, and how we can get people to, or how we can get this tool to be used more. And one of the exercise or the activity we are doing now is meant to promote that, build capacity to empower us in our regions and organizations to champion the thinking behind not business as usual, but we need to think more holistically. The resources are available. I think we made online, you have the resources. So these are the main resources that we use in session 1. So please refer to your handouts and the manuals that you can use. And these are just illustrative ones that can be used. So I would encourage everyone to please scan this QR code. You would enter your email, because we will track all of this. The details that you use to log in, this is basically to help assess whether we understood very fundamental questions around the session 1 that we just completed. So please go ahead. If it's not possible, just type in the URL underneath and you can access it. Let me know if you have any challenge. We have 5 minutes to go through this assessment. Okay. Is it? Okay. So, this is for you can actually scan this and link to us participated, but it's the same. No, this is the evaluation of the model. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So do you want? It's the same. Okay. It's the same assessment. All right. All right. Okay. All right. So please scan this. Are you having any challenge, please? No, just let's use this. So just visit the this year's 2022. This is what we'll be using throughout the entire session because we have each of the assessment. Yes. So please, 5 minutes, you can complete it. And if you have any questions,
Monsieur, s'il vous plaît. S'il vous plaît. Mais le document est en anglais là. Hein? Non, nous on a des problèmes, hein, parce que. Hein? C'est en anglais, on vous répond. Oui, on doit répondre.
Yeah, in the French. Yeah. Hi. So what I'll try to do is, our attention has been drawn to the assessment questions are in English, so we'll try and read it out so that our translators would help explain it or translate it for us. That way, our colleagues, French-speaking colleagues, can also respond to it. So just a moment, I would switch to. Sorry. Oh. I don't know if maybe Christian, will it be easier for you to just go through it, just to explain the assessment in the French? Would that be okay?
I'm trying to share my screen with the version that we had before in the slides with the word. Can you see it?
Yeah, it's starting. Your screen is starting to share. Yeah. Your screen.
Okay.
Yeah. Your screen.
Okay.
Yeah. Your screen.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it's the same question. This is the one in the slide deck. Christian, you can go ahead.
But Melanie, you can go through them anyways,
Okay.
so the interpreters hear you.
All right. Let me just a sec, please. Okay, so I'll read a question.
Okay, so I'll read a question. Okay, so I'll read a
I'll read the questions and we can go ahead, please. All right. So as part of the assessment, will be for session 1, we're looking at you scaling or scoring between having no opinion to strongly agree to the various statements that we have in terms of what we expect the learning objectives for the session to be. So if we look at session 1, we are looking at I am able, which is the first one, I'm able to describe the concept of digital climate advisory services, and then you grade your understanding or your feeling to whether you have no opinion of, as a result of this session, you strongly disagree with the concept or you strongly agree. Similarly, you have the next question, which is that I am able to differentiate between digitization and digitalization. And then we ask a question about I'm able to describe the concept of digitization in agriculture. And then I'm able to describe briefly how decars can contribute to climate resilience. I'm able to reflect on how decars can be useful to the farming community in my country. I'm able to describe at least 3 key success factors for decars. I'm able to describe 3 obstacles facing scaling the use of decars. I am positive of the application of decars for agricultural development in my country. And I'm looking up examples of decars services that are in use in my region. And then I'm able to list at least 5 decar services operational in my region. And then we have open questions, which we would need you to give a response. So the first question is, which decars would you like to see implemented or promoted in your country, and why? What are the main challenges in the implementation of these decars? And the last question is the open question, what are the main collective actions that will support or improve implementation of decars? So this is the assessment for session 1. Okay. All right. I hope we are on the same page. Are there any questions just to clarify the assessment? This link is available, so anytime, at least within the course, you have the opportunity to complete it. We are running against time. Doc, is it possible for us to do the energizer and then we can just get started? Yes, please.
Il fallait écrire. Est-ce que nous, les francophones, on peut écrire?
Sorry, can I get... It's in French. Yeah, you can write it in French, please. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Yeah. All right, so we'll go straight into module 2. Okay, so module 2 is about business cases that are being used in the DCAS, service provision. I think if I say business models that are being used, I think we are not very new to this concept. We've heard about business models and why it's important if we want to ensure that services are sustainable. Just like we started in the morning, wow. We're having some slight challenge with the internet, so please bear with us. Okay. Okay, so just as we did in the morning, we looked at the learning objectives for session 1. And for this session 2, which is focusing on the business model, I would like to describe 2 key business models that we know or in the space is very prevalent in offering digital advisory, climate advisory services. We also want to look at the elements that make up these, the provision of these digital advisory services. We'll discuss those elements. We'll look at the application of one of the business models in a country context. And then we'd also look at conceptualizing a design of this digital advisory service. And then we'll also understand which one is most appropriate, and then the functioning of at least one of this in your region, how you can apply this to your region. Okay, so currently there are quite a number of digital climate advisory services in the space, and GCA in its blueprint did some assessment, and they noticed about 6 different modules that are being applied. So I'll be taking each of them just to quickly explain. So we see a case where you have businesses, business to intermediary, they call it. So here you have solutions being sold to agribusinesses, such as insurance companies, banks, to pay for customers to access this digital advisory service. So this is one example that we see. We also have an example where services are embedded into commercial operations. And here you have agribusiness or commercial entities incorporating digital advisory, climate advisory services into their own operations. Example of this is given as Olam, and we'll look at that case study as well. And in this case, it's sort of a service the business offers to provide more loyalty or a complete bundle to their customers. In this case, farmers they are working with. And this is a private company paying for all that service. We also see specialized intermediary services, and here we see services that help DCAS operators, sort of including platforms, data managers, among others, incorporate climate advisory services to potential end users. So if you remember the earlier model that I presented, where you are developing the solution, you have specialized people who are in that category who do data collection, either leveraging satellite information. They do modeling, forecasting, and then offer that information to potential users. We also have complementary service provision. Businesses or providers integrating it into their own product line. Example is for example, building resilience, as a bundle service. Example here is giving us Pula Advisory, where it's an insurance company, but then the way they offer it is that when farmers buy their products, they are insured against, the challenges of the weather. So it's not just having the advisory, but then there is a tangible sort of benefit. They pay premiums in the form of an index insurance to assess this. And then we also have services supporting national agricultural information systems. And we have, and this you see a lot of development organizations, academia, working in this role to support national agricultural systems. Example is given as PlantWise, which we'll see. And the last category is where you're looking at super platforms. And here you have organizations who have built infrastructure that plugs various service providers. So if you want to do, advisory, you can just go to them and they can help you, whether in voice, SMS, call center services, among others. And in this case, you take away the middle men. An example of this is Merge Data, which is a platform that Farmerline has built. In the ecosystem, there are various components. So these are the business models that we see. But then there are also potential actors in the space. And here we are looking at agri-tech providers. We are seeing mobile network operators. We also see non-governmental organizations. And I think in the exercise we did, we can point out some of these actors who provide these digital advisory services. We also see the delivery channels or the technologies that are used. So we have IVR, we saw USSD, short SMS, web, there are mobile apps, chatbots, mobile applications, television, radio, TV, extension agents, etc. So these are all delivery technologies that are used within this digital ecosystem. We also see the type of information that is offered. And I think we see here that a lot of it is around climate-enabled, services. So it's not things like just pure market information, but it's enhanced with climate, insights. So we have weather and climate forecast, agroclimatic information, smart advisory. So here it is your agronomic practice, but then you have imputed in it the element of weather parameters. So for example, in cocoa, when depending on the season or the rainfall forecast, where it's projected to have higher rains, you may have the incidence of fungal infestation, which is the black pod. And so advice that is sent to the farmer is about them applying their input at that time when it's peak, because then they reduce the frequency, the amount they have to use, because that's when it's most effective, as opposed to spraying it when you don't know when it will be most effective. So those are the kind of services that we're looking at. Pest and disease management, I think in the national, the Kenya Ministry of Food and Agric, we saw the case how they were using it for their pest and disease, and early warning systems as well. So these are the sort of information type that is provided. Now, the examples that we see in this ecosystem includes banking and finance playing a role where they bundle this as part of their, so for example, you go for an input loan, they include an insurance, a climate index insurance, to make sure that the product they're giving you is insured and their investment is secured. And it goes all the way to traceability, among other types of services. So this one of the key use cases that we'd like to talk about, which is the advisory. And I think we are very familiar with this one, which is basically just offering climate, digital climate advisory service. And here we often see that the service owner, all right, if you follow with me, We have on one side the data collection and analysis, which is the sort of information that is collected to inform. And please refer back to the value chain. If you look at the value chain for the digital advisory service. So it's a data collection process or the service provision process where you work with either research institutions to help collect those data, whether climate, weather station data, or satellite information, among others. The information is also infused with good agronomic practices, among others. And then when it comes to the content development, you notice that the service owner here could be an agri-tech company. And in the example we played earlier, it was with the research institute, the Ministry of Food and Agriculture in Kenya that was delivering the SMS advice. We can also have examples where media companies, among others, doing that. Here they apply user-centered approach in the service design. So you go back to your stakeholder engagement. What is the need they have? And then the formatting of the delivery of the content that has to be delivered. So I'm presenting this framework to you just so that you understand that when you take an advisory service, the business model is, okay, what channel am I using? Is it relevant, or does it address, it's easier for some of the customers that I want to serve to, to get it? What is the best approach I need to use? And in terms of delivery, who may be best placed to help me do that? So it may not be, I may not be the one delivering it, and we'll see examples of some of that. And then when we look at the revenue model and the financing mechanism, we see that in most cases for the advisory services, you may have governments and donors supporting that. And in which case it's more impact funding. So for example, some of the programs that GCA wants to do is to see how we can support the adoption and then dissemination of this information. In some of the models where smallholder farmers are involved, there are subscription models where they subscribe to get this information. Or it is, you have input dealers who, as part of their service offering, let's say fertilizer companies or inputs, agrochemical companies want to add value, and so when you buy their products, they offer that as an additional, incentive for you. And you also have agribusinesses who use this as also a form of advertisement and then data monetization, among others. So this is a typical model that you see with digital for only advisory service only types. And so the legend just shows the type of. Then the second one, because I mentioned that we're going to describe two: the advisory only, so just information, and then the bundled, which is offering it with other support services. In the bundled one, we see here the service owner may be an input dealer or an input provider, or it could be an agribusiness where the data collection process, everything, they have field agents who collect data for monitoring throughout the growing season, among others. We also see that they work in partnership with some agricultural institutions because they can't do it all by themselves. So they leverage other expertise from the research institutions on issues on agroclimatic data, best agronomic practices. They also use weather information. So either through the meteorological agency or other service providers in the car space. And when it comes to the content development, they either have internal experts or they work in partnership with research institutions to adopt these content. And there are quality assurance of these advisory content, because you typically see this as a value add and you want to make sure that it also contains value, or this is an ideal scenario. So if you are looking at a service model, a business model for your the cars, you want to make sure that these components are present in them, and that ensures the trust, the assurance, etc. that we discussed, some of the challenges that the team mentioned. Typically, the revenue model for the bundled service is that you have input providers paying for that. You have agribusinesses, you have mobile operators because they want to expand their reach, and you also have financial service providers. And the way they do this service is either through crop subsidization. So cross subsidization, what this means, just basically means is that I sell inputs, but I have a way to make sure that it covers for the cost of the service. Though you're enjoying it for free, but it's still being paid for in a way. So that is the way, that's the model around this. And so this also informs you that, okay, if I want to develop such advisory services, how can I make it sustainable? Can I find ways of, maybe partner with a company that is offering inputs? They put a margin on it that covers for the cost. So farmers benefit as they do, and this becomes a way to drive this. We also have, mobile services, so partnership with mobile operators, financial institutions, among others. So we have a video just to give to the two use cases. The first one, which is the advisory only, and then the second one, which is a bundle service. So if our technical team can help us with video 1 in model 2, and then they can go ahead with video 2 in model, yeah.
Strongest El Nino events ever recorded caused significant changes to weather patterns around the world. This caused some of the worst drought conditions for decades in Africa. As well as affecting crops directly, drought has also increased the vulnerability of crops to pest outbreaks. For farmers like Mahama, drought has devastating impacts on crop yields.
Kakware sima, kakware kawana, kakware shinkafa, kakware naje. Termination on kare yela sama gbami. Tonku jizun wo mele bia pishi na nu bia penta pulo. Me shakam mashe dembe mo tokula nyel de zano. Balampi na na balampi ko shelmane. Sansalmane ra to ma yun talma. Kamande yuma tambona. Konko lala pumane. Kada nam yer mo sar la pam te parlam to mayen kan kana tenyela kayene.
Climate change has affected agriculture in the region in a way that now we have erratic rainfall. We also have droughts, and these have affected agriculture immensely. Conditions now conducive for those new pests. That is why they have migrated from wherever they came from to here.
CABI's Plant-Wise program is helping smallholder farmers address this challenge by teaching them climate-smart agricultural practices, such as switching to faster-growing or drought-resistant crop varieties.
And the Tara, the Maptiru, Traquala Chirana Nabambra. Ama Kasama Tabla Sarle, Kawanama Sahangare, Sama Mizo, Kasama Puli. Kara yelma ne pumpum de tuyamen lamna to kware chira tata bayara kanda ba kablan woma nan bon omangata de yela yel songjen yelanga kapatal haizante to poparo na babian daba kama yulma nda ko enjimi mbe mini yan balisha.
Plant-Wise is making a great difference in this region. The communities or areas which are fortunate to have the plant clinic, the farmers are able to access information on pests and diseases and other cultural practices, and they're able to manage their pests and diseases well, and that leads to increase in their crop yield.
Tahma ne de pashale zanchan sahabjala jahuma ne ta'zantuma da bahbam ne kaban yirpulo ni te parlam tuma yenma ntaha nyama yar pashale bin sha'adin yan ta'a tiyal mukhorama ne yipolo kap de han ta'ban ya sha'adin na handa tupuzuma ka kwangbai pachama.
By encouraging climate-smart agriculture, Plantwise enables smallholder farmers to be more prepared and resilient to the effects of climate change.
So this one is for an advisory service only. So they are giving the second.
Crop shrank by 3/4 last year due to unusually low rainfall. A simple remedy previously unavailable to most African farmers kept her from disaster. An insurance plan.
Insurance na ni duranga jana ndo yitele to watu bande ndemba soko ndengu koti jeni zito ndi wito na nondo wakwe utukeka biti nondo akeka biti bide no akija kwanda kintu kiba ndingizo
Minyolo, a 38-year-old mother of 3, had taken out an insurance policy with Kenyan startup Pula, which aims to reach a vast untapped pool of African farmers grappling with new disruptions linked to climate change. She made a claim with her Pula policy and received about $110, close to what she would have earned if her crop had flourished. Farming is the biggest contributor to economic output in many African nations, and across the continent, small-scale farmers are struggling to cope with the impact of climate change on weather patterns and the land on which they depend. But Pula is offering a way to manage. In Kenya alone, 600,000 farmers have taken out policies with Pula.
We are trying to help them by distributing insurance products that will enable them to fight advanced climatic changes, things to do with rainfall, whether it's excess rainfall which causes the flooding and hailstorms, whether it's less rainfall which causes drought and causes plant loss, anything that is a natural calamity that's likely to affect the farmer.
These challenges, along with the spread of mobile phone technology, have created the conditions for Pula's rapid growth. Outside of Kenya, the company has already signed up 4.6 million farmers in Nigeria, Zambia, Ethiopia, and other African countries. Also key to the firm's success is affordability. Farmers can insure their crops with Pula for as little as $5 to $10. To sustain its business while keeping premiums low, Pula uses a mobile phone application to register users, machine learning algorithms to cluster farmers whose land have similar characteristics, and digital tools to assess claims in the field. That's according to Pula CEO Thomas Njeru.
Key for us is to, one, as I said, achieve diversification, actually something we can do at a global scale, to enable us to reach our goal of reaching at least 30 million farmers in the next 2 to 3 years, spread across the 3 continents, Africa, Asia, and Latin America.
In January, Pula raised $6 million in a funding round. Njeru said the company's next targets are Brazil and India.
So we see examples of how digital advisory services are being used, business models that is fueling the use of these. The example of the first one, which is Kabi, is something that they are doing in using their network of Plantwise doctors, but they are leveraging technology to also extend this. So you see an element of in-person, but then also they are leveraging climate smart information, so that the plant-wise doctor is able to use that to advise the farmer on their need. All right. The other example which we saw in the Pula one is a bundle service, which is an insurance product, offering farmer a climate smart, service, but then also, the farmer gets an index insurance. By paying for an index insurance, he gets covered for in case there's a eventuality of bad weather, and that is also a form of a climate smart service, which we basically need to look at. And all these models from the earlier ecosystem that I presented, they are varied of them. And so as we think about these solutions, we need to understand which one works best for us, so that we are planning and innovating around those things. What I would like us to do is just look at these two last examples, which is one looking at a commercial. I think I mentioned it already. So this is with Olam. So Olam has this farmer information system, which they basically use. Olam is a global company sourcing from several countries with millions of farmers that they are working with. Currently, they have, I think, over 500,000, 500,000 farmers. They have invested in digital tools, working to help their farmers, be more climate resilient. And examples, and please, when you open your handout, you can read this furthermore. I know we are behind time. And then also right here in Ghana, which is a company that I work with, which is Farmerline, we've also built a platform called Merge Data. And basically this tool is sort of a super platform in the sense that you don't need to worry about going to work with a third party to do integrations, etc. We've done the mobile infrastructure. So you plug in and you can send messages to your farmers, as an example. That is also an option that is available for operators or implementers to also consider tailoring the service to suit your needs. So it's like you look at what pieces make sense and then you adapt it to suit your use case. And we work with integrators, providing weather forecasts, providing insurance to make it accessible to service providers, and various services, training in the local language, etc. So that's an example of the business cases that we've seen. From literature, and I think from some of the discussions we had earlier, there are some key elements that we need to consider for a successful business model in the digital climate advisory service. The first one is that it has to be user-centered. All right, you need to know who your customer is. You just don't do sit in the office, plan, and then come in, and it will not go far. You may have good results. It's very positive in terms of the predictions, etc. But because the users were not considered in the planning, the user design may not fit them because it may be too technical. So you need to understand what problem you want to solve for the customer, how best to deliver it. So this is very important. The customer is key. And as we design, and we need to think this is not just looking at it from the perspective of a business, but even in an organization, you need to think about it as a research institution. Who is our customer? Is it the farmer? Is it the policymakers? How do we design these climate, services to really address a pain point they have? The second point that we need to consider in terms of for successful model is the fact that the last mile challenges are real. We are in Africa. I mean, here in Accra, we're seeing the challenge of internet connectivity. In parts of Africa, there is no coverage of internet. At best, you may have 2G connection, and there even they are patchy. How do you design solutions so that it does not exclude others? So the physical infrastructure, what other technology, what other platforms can you use to complement? So for example, a lady from the Gambia was sharing with us how the women in their group use WhatsApp to communicate, because that is a much easier way for them. It may not apply in a different context because, one, they don't have smartphones. But even in that context, there are factors that we need to consider. What is the literacy, among others, conditions? So offline is really important. We need to know the function. How does that play? Because in our context, we are not fully connected. So we need to consider that. The third element is the fact that you need to focus on the most responsive segment. All right. We need to look at the farming population, the youth, and proactively identify early adopters. When you have that, you have evidence to show that they become your ambassadors to promote these digital advisory services. The next is in terms of achieving efficiency through specialization. We need to also focus on, if we're offering a particular service, how do we make sure that it is very specific to the needs that we are trying to, if you look at it within the agricultural chain. Let's say you have a research institution. Your expertise is doing modeling or forecasting. You want to partner with an institution that is expert in doing outreach or delivery. So you focus on your core competency and offer that. Or you have a strong user engagement in terms of engaging farmers, a strong farmer base. So you focus on that, but get partners who can help you provide the other elements that you do not have. And then the last option, the last factor which we're seeing is a driver of success, is that the more you bundling the services, the better it is, the more sticky they become. Just offering a farmer an advice is not guarantee. And I think it came up in one of the discussions that you need, they want to see, they want evidence. So the more you bundle these services, the better it is for adoption of this climate advice. We will do this last video, and then we would have last assessment, but that will be something we'll take home, and then, because I know we're running behind schedule and a lot of people seem to be exhausted. So what I'll do is that we can play the third video, which is introducing a tool. Now, and I think in the startup environment, this is very common in terms of a business model canvas. Now, what this tool does is that it helps introduce you to thinking in a snapshot how you would offer a service to your customer, what the value proposition is, what partners you need, what key resources, among others. And it's important that even though we may not be entrepreneurs, in our own right, but we are researchers, we are, extension officers. We think within this lens to see that if I'm going to propose a service, how is this solving a need to which customer? What is the best channel to deliver it? What is the cost? Because these are the factors that you need to consider when you want to scale these digital solutions. So if you can play the video. Okay. You need some time. Okay. So whilst the video is yet to be queued, I just want to explain briefly the activity. So there's a canvas just to explain key components of it. So you're looking at key partners. Here we're looking at what, okay. You want to play the video?
Can be described with 9 basic building blocks, signed with the customer segment.
An organization's business model can be described with 9 basic building blocks: your customer segments, your value proposition for each segment, the channels to reach customers, customer relationships you establish, the revenue streams you generate, the key resources and key activities you require to create value, the key partners, and the cost structure of the business model. But it's not sufficient to just enumerate the 9 building blocks. What you really want to do is to map them out on a pre-structured canvas. This is what we call the business model canvas, a tool that helps you map, discuss, design, and invent new business models. Let's briefly go through the 9 building blocks, starting with the customer segments. These are all the people or organizations for which you're creating value. This includes simple users and paying customers. For each segment, you have a specific value proposition. These are the bundles of products and services that create value for your customers. The channels describe through which touchpoints you're interacting with customers and delivering value. Customer relationships outline the type of relationship you're establishing with your customers. The revenue streams make clear how and through which pricing mechanisms your business model is capturing value. Then you need to describe the infrastructure to create, deliver, and capture value. The key resources show which assets are indispensable in your business model. Key activities show which things you really need to be able to perform well. The key partners show who can help you leverage your business model, since you won't own all key resources yourself, nor you perform all key activities. Then once you understand your business model's infrastructure, you'll also have an idea of its cost structure. So with the business model canvas, you can map out your entire business model in one image. This works for startup entrepreneurs just as well as for the most senior executives.
Okay. All right. So this is basically to really introduce us to the business model canvas. And like I said, it's not, based on the time, would sort of try to wrap it here. But just to explain that the business model canvas is a tool. When I say it's a tool, just like you use a cutlass to weed, etc., this is helping you think through, if I'm developing a service, what do I need to think about for the service to be financially sound? And this is giving you a snapshot. It doesn't mean that that's when you do this, that's the end. You are always thinking through it. Okay, what elements can I change if things are not working? So it gives you a better sense of, if you say you want to offer information to farmers, or you have a farmer group, or you as a research institution, you want to offer your knowledge product to customers. How do we package this? How do we stake this out? You can use this to help you think through the key partners you need. Okay, if we are looking at sending this to farmers, who are the key partners we should be talking to? All right. If I'm a startup company, who are the key partners that I need to talk to get climate data? These are the thinking that it helps you to factor in. The key part that you should also consider is, what is the value proposition? And this value proposition always connects to who your customer segment is. So you should know who your customer is, and which goes back to the user engagement, demand-driven services. So you want to be sure that you are designing solutions that address a need. I hope we are getting the concepts, because it's quite a lot of information that we've been bombarded with this afternoon. So we'll not do this assessment. We'll hopefully, you've been given the handouts. The links to the assessments are also available. If you go to, okay. Yes, tomorrow we'll have the chance to look at this quickly. When we come with fresh brains, we can basically take it up. But I'd like to basically end the session by just recapping what we've tried to understand. The first thing is that we've tried to look at the digital climate advisory service ecosystem and the components. So we have the business model, we have the key players, we've looked at the delivery channels, we've looked at the technology involved, we've looked at the business, the revenue streams that are also involved. How do we make sure that this is sustainable? We have also looked at 5 different modules, business models around digital climate advisory services, but there are 2 popular ones, which is, oh, okay, sorry, my apologies. Yeah. So I was just trying to recap. I know we've had a long day, and especially for our brothers who are joining us from the other West African countries in a different time zone. Probably it's very late now, so we want to end the session here. And I was just recapping the key lessons or essence of what we've tried to study today as trainers. The first one is that we now have an overview of when we say digital climate advisory service, what the ecosystem is, what elements are, or what are the components. We've also looked at 5 kinds of models that are in existence. So we've talked about the advisory only, we've looked at the bundled services, looked at embedded, among others. But the 2 popular ones are the advisory and then bundled. We've also looked at, we haven't done identifying some of the business models yet. Hopefully tomorrow we can do that. So we've also introduced what a business model canvas is. Hopefully tomorrow we can apply that and then see how useful it is for us to think about our services. We would want to thank you so much for your participation, and I'll hand over to Dr.
Wow. It's a full day. And it is knowledge intensive. It's loaded. Yeah, I think we need to give ourselves a bit of break to relax this evening, so that when we're fresh we internalize this module again. But for the benefit of doubt, in case anyone is having any burning question or comment or curiosity you quickly want to raise, and you think now is the best time you can raise it, let me just quickly give that space to people online and the people that are here. Let me know. Okay, one in-house, going, gone. Okay, 2, going, gone. Anyone online? Okay, Vobong. Okay, so I can see that one hand online. So let's quickly give the online participant. Egerton, please, can you quickly come online and come on and give your comment, questions, query? Emmanuel also can follow. So you have the floor, participant online, to quickly raise your comment now.
Thank you very much for the presentation.
Can you come on?
Thank you very much for the presentation.
Hello? Allô? Je peux y aller?
Yeah.
Merci beaucoup pour la présentation. Je voudrais vraiment que le présentateur, puisque c'est
je vais dire, un sujet réel et qui nous préoccupe à, comment dirais-je, à des plus hauts niveaux. J'aurais voulu qu'il fasse un effort de présenter les forces et les faiblesses concernant les différents modèles qu'il a présentés. Parce que j'ai vu que ce n'est pas que les gens n'ont pas envie d'aller à la digitalisation, mais il y a beaucoup d'obstacles. Les installations qu'il faut pour pouvoir l'offrir à nos producteurs, c'est difficile à obtenir et si bien que ça crée beaucoup plus de problèmes. Pourquoi je voudrais beaucoup plus qu'on insiste sur ces éléments-là de force et de faiblesse pour que nous puissions réellement et à cette question de digitalisation. Merci beaucoup.
Cool. We are going to take that up. Yes, Dr. Magaji. Dr. Magaji, can you present your comment now? Yeah. Tricky. Let's
Okay. Yeah, thank you for the presentation. Mine is I'm a little bit curious. You mentioned that you bundle to increase the value of your services. I want to find out to what extent can you go on bundling, that is adding more services to your product. Is there any idea about limitation as to how many services you can bundle in one product? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Number 2. Yeah. Please use your microphone. Just open that microphone so that the translators can hear you.
Est-ce que vous pouvez partager avec nous un modèle économique réussi et après que le projet est fini d'intervenir? Un modèle économique réussi qui est adossé à la digitalisation. Maintenant, de retour dans nos pays respectifs, pour la duplication de cette formation, on peut y avoir besoin des intrants pour dupliquer cette formation dans nos pays respectifs. Est-ce que vous avez en perspective d'appuyer les pays ici représentés dans la duplication de cette formation? Troisième préoccupation, il se pourrait que les utilisateurs finaux, pour mettre véritablement en application l'innovation, peuvent avoir besoin du contact physique, c'est-à-dire au-delà d'être smartphone pour leur apporter l'innovation, il se pourrait qu'ils aient besoin vraiment du contact physique. Et là, la présence des conseillers agricoles deviennent un peu indispensables. Et dans la perspective de pérennisation du financement du conseil agricole, comment est-ce que vous pensez qu'on puisse vraiment assurer la pérennisation du conseil agricole avec, bien entendu, l'appui physique des conseils? Merci.
Yeah. Merci beaucoup. So, we respond. Please, quickly respond to the call.
All right. Thank you so much. So the question regarding how much bundling is needed, I think it goes back to the question, it goes back to you looking at what is your customer telling you. If you are providing advice, just information, and the information is not enough, either in translating or ensuring adoption or building that impact you want to see. You want to listen to the customer, and that informs what bundled services you would introduce. to make sure that it's helping. I'll give an example using my organization as a case study. So, very quick one. We started with information, sending good agronomic practices to farmers, telling them how best they can use, new technologies to improve farming. But then we're getting feedback from farmers that you've given us good information, but where do we get the inputs? All right, where do we get, how can we afford them? So that gave us a thinking. We have to go back to the drawing board, engage with key partners, and then come up with a solution. Say, okay, we'll give you the inputs you need. And then in addition to that, we offer the advice. That's a bundled service. Then issue about finance also came in, that they don't have money to buy the inputs. So we have to, think through, find an innovative model that helps us. It doesn't mean you alone may try to find that out, but you work with partners, and that's how you look to bundle services. So I would say that listen to the customer. Your customer may be an agri-tech company as a research institution that they need help in offering seasonal forecasts. That is not their expertise. But working with you, you offer a service. And then what it means is that if you're able to prove a case, as we're talking about private sector investment into this, they will see value in it because they have a customer paying them, and then you are able to use your research to still innovate. So that's the thinking we should be looking at. To the question about how do we, with all these, lessons, how do we, when you go back home, how are you going to get those support? I think one of the beauty of this program we're doing is try to build community of practice, where we are still sharing and learning from each other. So this is just the beginning. I think Christian mentioned this earlier, that this is just the beginning. And it's really fundamental to the program that we have here, that we learn from, sharing within country, across, the region, where we're able to offer learnings, experience. So if you have a problem, you don't just face it alone, because probably somebody has solved that. So my hope is that we are not just going to leave it here, but then we are going to challenge each other. And as part of the, training of trainers, qualification or certificate, we would, show that we are taking this forward and we're training people, problems we have, we're reaching out within the network, either through D groups, which I think has been set up already. We can be part of it to contribute and share knowledge to help each other. Thanks.
Okay. Give a round of applause. I mean, thank you very much for your comments and this. I listening to the two example business model, and you call it bundling. Yeah, bundling. It takes me to innovation system thinking, where everything works within a system. So the different components within the system can actually constitute elements of your bundle. And because the part you did not include may actually be the one that will create a leak in the process. I think that is sufficient a mouthful for a day. I want to thank you very much. I looked at the participant online. We still have 91. I mean, people that are here is easier, but people that are outside, for 91 individuals to still remain from 8 a.m., I mean, Ghana time, West African time, 9 a.m., till this time is going to be 6:30 to 7 West African time. It clearly shows that the interest is high in this subject matter, and we need to take it seriously. Let me, on behalf of GCA and FARA, we have many principals in these two organizations. On behalf of those principals, I want to thank every one of you for the keen interest, for giving your time, for giving your Wi-Fi to be part of this. And for those who are here, thank you for the strong energy. The type of questions you raise, they are very, very intelligent questions, and that is an indication of your keen interest to advance digitalization of climate advisory services. I think it is just appropriate for me to release you to just enjoy your evening, relax very well. And then if you do the other things, please do it carefully. Don't do those things that I will not do. Enjoy Accra as much as possible. Please don't do those things that I will not do. But enjoy yourself as much as possible. So on that note, we bring today's episode to a close. Tomorrow, we start at the same time, 9 a.m. GMT. And for West African time, it's going to be 10 a.m. Nigerian time. Okay, good night. And God bless you. Oh, you.